Welcome back to another episode of Real Results with Coach Joe. I'm your host, Joe Villegas. This is the program where we help you to improve your health, increase your wealth, and live a more fulfilling life. And I've got a very special guest with me today, Matt Montellione. Matt, how you doing, brother?
Doing great, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So on this program, we talk about, like I said, improving health, increasing wealth, living a more fulfilling life. I want to touch on increasing wealth today, and through the means of entrepreneurship. Matt is a self-made entrepreneur for sure, so I know he's got a lot of wisdom he's going to share with the viewers today. Matt, if we could just start off, give us your origin story. Give us a little background on how you got started as a business person and all that.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Happy to dive in there. So essentially, when I first graduated college, I knew I didn't want to work for somebody else, right? I wanted to do my own thing. And I had to figure out, what can I offer the marketplace? I had a limited number of skills at the time, not that I have a lot now, but an even more limited number at the time. And I said, you know what? I know how to make websites. And I feel like small businesses need websites. I remember going on a website to order like a pizza. I was like, I can't even find the menu. I can't find anything. I should pitch this guy when I get there that I could build this website for him, which is exactly what I did, and closed my first sort of little website deal there. I actually traded pizza for it. But in the beginning, it was just, hey, I have a skill set that I know the marketplace that needs, and I have the ability to go door to door, right? I don't have any money, but I have my labor, and I can go sell this to small businesses, and that's what I did. I just went door to door to every small business you can think of, and I would do anything I could, whether it was trade pizza or lunch credit or whatever, store credit, or small website packages. And I thought I was really good at sales in the beginning, but it was actually, I was like the cheapest person on planet Earth. That's why I was closing so many deals. But it was my beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, realizing that I could work for myself, I could deploy a skill that would actually add value to the marketplace. And over time, my thought process was, if I got better and better and better at this, or hired people that were better than me eventually, I could charge more and add more and more value. And that's kind of how the whole thing started.
That's amazing. I love that, how you're just going door to door trading it for pizza. That's fantastic. But that's how you got to get started, right? You have to give value up front in order to get that back over time. And hey, if it's in pizza, I'm not going to argue with that. So let's go through your journey a little more. So you were building sites, you kind of started to grow a bit of a business under you. What was the progression from there? Like, how'd you get to today with, you've got Roycebrook Media, which is just a powerhouse when it comes to marketing?
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, essentially the next step was, okay, I want to get into a bigger target market or sell larger accounts. So I needed basically two things. I needed the ability to get in front of them, and then I needed the skill set to service them. So I kind of focused on both originally, right? I ended up hiring some people that could actually design websites better than I could, and I was able to pay them on a per project basis. So I didn't have to take on like the fixed cost of hiring a full-time employee. I didn't have the money for that at the time.
Right.
So that was my first step, is let me find someone who's super skilled at this, who I can purchase this labor from and this project from, and then charge more. I mean, every business on earth is basically getting something at one price, adding your labor and your value to it, and then charging more. So that was kind of the thought process there. And then stage two was, okay, I need to get in front of bigger and bigger clients. And what my thought process was here is, like, they say, like Tony Robbins and a million of these sort of influencers, and I think they're right, your net worth is your network, or your network is your net worth, right? So I wanted to get in front of bigger and bigger companies and people that are at higher and higher entrepreneurial levels, because I figured if I could get in front of them, I could absorb their skills and character traits and learn by osmosis. So I ended up joining a group called Vistage many years ago, and I was probably one of the smallest companies in Vistage history. For people that don't know, Vistage is a group of, like, a CEO peer group where CEOs meet once a month. There's like 21,000 members across the country.
Wow.
And you get in front of some really high quality people in there. It's not the cheapest thing in the world. At the time, it was like most of my profit to join this group.
Wow.
And that wasn't much profit to speak of, but it was most of my additional income. But I thought, I need to absorb the knowledge. I need to get the expertise from these people. And also, of course, secretly and self-servingly, I wanted to sell to them as well, right? I'm like, if I could sit in the room with 15 CEOs that have bigger companies, I could sell them some of our services. And that's sort of what happened, and got the ball rolling, getting in front of bigger companies.
That's awesome. So where does that lead to today? What's your company, Roycebrook Media, up to?
Yeah, so over time, after we sort of went from those mom and pop websites, doing websites for maybe $1,000, to scaling up to doing like projects for $250,000, custom development projects, I had 7 full-time employees and like maybe 25 outsourced developers, and reached this point where I was like, I'm supposed to feel like I made it, but I really hated what was going on. I didn't really enjoy moving a button 1 centimeter to the left and arguing over scope creep. And if anyone has a website business, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right, right.
And I'm like, we're really good at this lead gen thing. We should offer this as a service. It's probably 6, 7 years ago, maybe a little further.
Yep.
I'm like, we should just offer this to our existing client base. We'll tell them at the time, we didn't have experience with it, but did they want to give it a shot? A number of companies did, and we honed our skills. We did a lot of outbound marketing on LinkedIn, and then cold email became really popular for us and really effective for us. And we kind of went deep. We went all in there. About 18 months after making that decision, our lead generation revenue eclipsed our development revenue. We made the strategic decision, we're never going to do another website as long as we live. Right. Done over 350 of them. We'll never do another one. I mean, I go on websites, but that's about it.
Yep.
And they kind of built the company from there. And over time, also realized I love learning and absorbing and teaching these things. So we released a training program where we actually help companies, individuals or typically companies, learn how to deploy some of these outbound B2B lead generation campaigns. So we'll take them through a 90-day sort of accelerator program so that they can learn and use their internal resources, develop their own leads on a regular basis.
So basically a teach a man to fish scenario.
Exactly right.
That's awesome. And so I think what's really cool, and I would love to use your evolution as an entrepreneur to help sort of teach folks out there how to do it, how to do the gig, right? And I think a lot of folks up front maybe don't understand you don't need to have any money, any capital to get started. Really, what you need is a skill, even if it's just a rudimentary skill, but something that folks need, that businesses need to get started. So just kind of sort of use the beginning of your journey there. You were quite literally trading the skill of building websites for a meal, which I think to some people sounds silly or crazy, but that's what you needed to do to get those repetitions under your belt and build up that skill set. What's some advice, Matt, you might give to someone who's maybe thinking about starting their own business in terms of if they don't maybe have the confidence, hey, I'm not sure if I'm good enough to do this. What's something you might tell that person just to get them rolling?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of you have to figure out what you're good at or have a passion for, because if you have a passion for it, you can get better at it very easily. If you hate something, it's much harder to get really good at it.
For sure.
But find a problem that you can solve for a business typically. I mean, it can be for a consumer too, right? But you have to find a problem that you can solve. And if you have a way you can solve that, whether it's with your labor, with your skill, by outsourcing it, whatever it is, but everybody has problems, and that's where all businesses are made. If you can solve someone's issue, solve someone's challenge, take them from kind of their pain that they're in and help them reach their dream outcome, that's really what you want to focus on. And there's a million different examples of things you could do. Fortunately for me at the time, it's a very low startup cost type business, right? If I wanted to start I'm going to start a restaurant or I'm going to buy a franchise, right? That's hundreds of thousands of dollars. Right. So for me, I was building a website, it's all online based, right? I have access to the internet and I can walk door to door. But I have a feeling part of it is if you want what other people don't have, you have to be willing to do things other people won't do.
Yep.
And I knew most people wouldn't go door to door and sell these things, especially in my space, which I felt a lot of people in tech aren't willing to kind of put themselves out there in person like that. They're probably more used to being behind the scenes on things. I was this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go, I'm going to give them my pitch. And I did not look like a salesperson because my hair was down to here.
That's right.
I looked like a hippie. So it was really easy for me to ask for the owner, and they would just get him or her for me because they didn't think I was selling something, and I would pitch them. So that was kind of fun. But I would say being able to solve someone's challenge, figuring out what skill you have, and then just getting great at it. We live in the information, era of information. You could go on YouTube and you could learn basically anything.
Yeah.
Right. And I invested so much time, energy, and money beyond my college education. College was fun. It was a blast. I learned some things, but nothing really to do what I'd done in business. And I spent a lot of time joining groups like Vistage, right, learning from people that are way smarter than me. I've probably spent $300,000 on online courses and training programs and mentorships because I'm that's what it is. I need to acquire these skills and acquire these character traits. And I think people don't always invest in themselves, invest in those skills, but it's one of the best investments you can make, in my opinion, from what I've seen, from the limited things I've been able to do and from mentors and what I've seen them do. It's just a phenomenal investment.
Yeah, 100%. And what's funny, I think this was something Jim Rohn had said to Tony Robbins, right? So Tony's original mentor was Jim Rohn, and Tony asked him, what's the best advice you could give me? And Jim had said to Tony, well, if you can invest in yourself more than anything else, put the time into yourself every single day, become more skilled, more valuable, you'll be able to add so much value to the market that it'll be unquestionable that you should be getting back, that and tenfold in return, right, for putting that much kind of value out. And what's cool about hearing your journey firsthand is you literally built this thing from the ground up. It wasn't like, oh, I just had a bunch of cash laying around, or I went to Harvard Business School and had an amazing network and it just like all worked out for me. Like, yeah, you had to have that sort of like Rocky cut scene, right, where you're sort of grinding it out and putting it together. But you were doing something you loved, right? You were working in kind of the tech side of things and helping businesses grow. And I would imagine that's going to be pretty addicting to help those folks start to see success, and it sort of validates the skills that you have. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. And that's one of the things when I really got into like the teaching aspect of it, because you spend all this time, energy, and money like acquiring this knowledge and expertise, and it's like marketing nerd speak, which not everyone's interested in. I'm not going to tell my wife or my family about it. They've heard enough. They don't want to hear anymore.
Right.
So it's great to be able to like teach that to people and kind of give back and run these training programs. Because I'm like, I was this guy, and I still have a lot more to learn. But in terms of this aspect, I was this guy trying to learn these things, and someone was a mentor to me and helps me grow and learn and grow the business. So now I get to do that for people, and it's great. We have over 200 people in our Outbound Academy program that we've sold into over the course of time, which is our high-level training, which teaches them how to do LinkedIn and cold email outreach and generate leads. So it's fun to be able to like empower people to control their own destiny and learn some of these things. And just like Tony Robbins would say, you could turn decades into days. And that's kind of what we try to do. It took me over 10 years to kind of learn all these different skills in terms of lead gen, and now we teach them to people in under 90 days. So that's a lot of fun. That's one of the most rewarding parts.
That's amazing. I think for folks that are watching, what's cool is you don't have to have a business that needs to use this lead gen capability. You could sign up for Outbound Academy literally as a student, learn the skill, and then go provide that to companies. I mean, there's a business idea right there.
There you go. Joe's coming up with business ideas off the top of his head. I love it.
They can just get started right away. So, Matt, I love where this is going. I obviously want to keep the conversation going. We're going to continue talking about entrepreneurship when we get back from this break from our sponsors.
We both got an awesome network and save money doing it.
I know, $25. I love that it's guaranteed for 3 years.
Hey, we're sitting on a sign here.
Switch and get Welcome Unlimited for $25 a line, guaranteed for 3 years. Verizon.
Have you heard? Join me, Heather Darling, weekly for a different spin on politics, business, law, and other key issues you will not want to miss right here on RVN TV.
See, son, with a little elbow grease, you can do just about anything.
Thanks, Dad.
That's right, Robert. And it's never too early to learn you could save with America's #1 motorcycle insurer.
That's right, Jamie. But it's not just about savings. It's about the friends we make along the way.
You said it, Flo. And don't forget to floss before you brush. Your gums will thank you.
That's right, Dr. Gary.
Jamie?
Sorry, I had another thought, so I got back in line.
What was it?
I can't remember.
My dream day with Offset starts like...
Cardi, baby, get in.
I surprised you with a place all to ourselves.
Thank you, baby.
You look gorgeous tonight, baby.
We share our favorite McDonald's order.
And we start with a cheers. Let's eat. The Cardi B.
An Offset meal.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Welcome back to Real Results. With me today, I have Matt Montellione, and we are talking about entrepreneurship. For those of you out there who want to increase your wealth, there's really only, and Matt, you can stop me if I'm wrong, but I think there's really only about 5 ways you can make money, right? You could steal it, which hopefully no one's doing that. You could earn it by trading your time, so a typical salary. You could inherit it. You could win it, or you can make it through business, and that's what we're talking about today. So Matt, what I'd love to kind of delve into is you sort of gave us your story, which is quite the incredible journey, right? Over a decade or more that you've been in business now, always working for yourself, which is super cool. And you've shared that with us and some of the, like little lessons you learned along the way. What I'd love to do is kind of back up to the beginning to middle of your journey where you're having those, as we talked about, those rocky cut scenes, right? Where you're just like grinding it out, making it happen. Can you share a bit about that experience so we can kind of delve into it for the viewers?
Definitely. I truly believe, and I've heard someone way smarter than me say this, but like entrepreneurship, I think, is one of the most intense self-discovery vehicles that exist in life, because you go through such highs and such lows, right? Like you could be riding high in April and shot down in May type of thing. And it happens on a regular basis. It's like sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward. But I knew that no matter what happened, there was a 0% chance that I would work for somebody else. Like I was going to figure it out no matter what. And I think that's part of the mindset you kind of have to have is no matter what happens, this is my life. There is no plan B, right? Like you want to take the island, you have to burn the boats. Right. And I was totally committed. Even, many years ago, we went through a really tough time when the economy shifted and everything changed a bit and the business model changed. And, there was multiple months where I'd work 80 hours a week. And after 3 months in, I'm like, I've lost $10,000 a month for the past 3 months, every month. Wow. And you're like, if you don't have that mindset of like, I'm doing this no matter what, that's the point where you're like, you know what? I'm calling it. I'm not just going to bleed, blood, sweat, and tears and lose money every month. But I just knew that there's no matter what, I was going to figure it out. I was going to keep acquiring as many skills and character traits as I could, try to get smarter and better. And fortunately, that was a tough period a long time ago and turned it around, and it's been mostly on the upswing, but some back and forth for sure. But the goal is to build this into, a $10+ million company over the next few years. And hopefully we're on pace to do that.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's amazing. So obviously uncertainty is a big factor in entrepreneurship, and being able to weather those storms and stomach it. What's some advice you give to somebody who maybe is thinking about entrepreneurship and maybe some stuff they can do mentally to brace themselves for the inevitable?
Yeah, I mean, part of it, I think, I just saw a great video, and there's a whole documentary now on Arnold Schwarzenegger. A lot of people are probably familiar with him, but he just really dove into you have to have a vision. Like if you don't have a vision, you can have the best plane in the world, the best pilot, but if you don't have that GPS to know where you're going, you're just going to fly around aimlessly. So having that vision written out, and there's some study, I think Jim Rohn said, less than 2% of people even write down their goals. So super measurable, specific goals, not like I want to make more money. It's like, oh, here's $1. You did it. Right. Super specific. I want to make this much by this date. I want to help this many clients get X result by this date. Having those hard and fast goals so you can see it and visualize it. And I do believe in visualization. That you're going to visualize this goal. You're going to write it down. You're going to act if it were true. I mean, don't trick yourself. But every day take steps towards making that a reality. And I think having the vision of what you want to achieve and why it's so important to you, that's what keeps you going. When you have that deep why and you have the vision and you're dreaming of that outcome, you're going to do whatever it takes to get there.
Yeah, I love that. You made a good point, right? It's the quote we've all heard, without vision, people perish, right? As it says in that good book called The Good Book. So I think it's so critical. And what's amazing is, and you touched on this before, is entrepreneurship is probably the best form of personal development and growth that you can go through. And there's a lot of parallels to all those things, right? Because if you don't grow as a person, the business is never going to grow, right? It's not going to take off because you as the entrepreneur are the limiting factor, period, right? The end. So you have to be growing constantly. And I think, I'm sure you would agree, that just the act of goal setting and writing down your goals, and even just daydreaming about your goals, is fundamental to this bigger process. I heard an analogy one time that was when you look at those huge cargo tankers with the big cargo bins on them that go across the seas. They weigh about 200,000 tons, and the rudder on those ships weighs less than 1% of the total weight of the boat. Yet it's the one thing steering it, right? That one little piece of metal, comparatively speaking, is the only thing steering that big ship. And it's the same with goal setting, right? So if you do not have a vision for where you want to go, you're never going to get there, right? So I think it's critical. Do you have a routine, Matt, like a daily routine when it comes to visualization? Or, hey, every couple months I revisit my goals and write them down? What's something that you do to do goal setting?
Yeah, I do actually have sort of a strategic morning routine. I've done it every morning for probably 15 years now, though it's evolved over time. But I do a little bit of yoga, meditation, or to visualize my goals very specifically as if they were true now, not the act of doing the work, but actually what it's like when you get there, and then do some gratitude for all the great blessings I have in my life. So I like to kind of set myself up in the morning. I do not look at my phone for the first 2 hours of the day because I want to focus in on my goals and not let the world, people just grab their phone as soon as they wake up. I'm you're just playing defense. Usually, because anything could come to you that's your boss is pissed off, this client, this, that, the next thing, right? So play offense. I definitely have had, I didn't make that up. I think I got that from Ed Milet, but that's been a blessing not looking at the phone anymore.
Yep.
And then like reverse engineering the vision. It's great to have a vision, but you also don't want to be like delusional.
Yes.
You're like, I'm going to make $1 billion in the next 1 year. Like most people are not going to do that.
Right.
So having like a strategic way to get there. So let's just say your goal is to get to 7 figures for your business revenue. You just keep reversing that. It's like, all right, $1 million is about 83,000 a month. That's about $2,740 a day. What do I need to do to get to $2,740 a day? I need to sell at least 1 client at $2,740 or 5 clients at whatever the numbers come to.
Right.
And you just kind of break that down. And eventually you're like, this doesn't look quite as bad as it seems. When you just look at the big goal, you're like, this is nearly impossible.
Right.
But if you chunk that down, it just becomes so much more manageable.
I think that's a great point. Is like it's so important to have a big vision, but you have to have realistic steps to get there. The way I like to look at it is you have a goal, but then you have targets along the way that you can hit, or checkpoints, road signs, whatever you want to call them, so that you kind of know you're on the right path, right? It may not be a laser focus, right? It may be more of like a shotgun approach, but as long as you're pointing in the right direction, you're going to get there. And I think some of it too is, as you might agree, right, is you leave some of it up to grace, right? You're not going to know every step of the way and how it's going to play out, but that's kind of part of the fun. That's part of the game. You might make a contact that introduces you to your next 10 clients, or you hire 1 employee and they help change your business forever. But that's stuff you can't really predict, but you kind of need to appreciate as it comes on. So I'm sure that you've had things like that happen in your life as far as your business is concerned that have turned the tides, hopefully for the better. But it's really kind of part of the game, part of the fun, if you'd agree.
100%. Yeah, literally 1 contact I had one time I got introduced to, and then 2 years later they came back for the biggest project in the history of our company.
Wow.
So that happens all the time. We just landed a really big account from a guy who I've known through Vistage for a really long time. So that's the strategy. And then I wanted to just quickly talk about what I think maybe the next wave is that's low-hanging fruits. I think social media marketing, website design were like ripe for the picking back then. Not that they're not now, but it's a little bit more saturated.
Yep.
But the elephant in the room is AI, and AI is rapidly going to change our world. And I think there's a lot of old school businesses out there that are going to struggle, if not get crushed, because they're not sort of evolving and adapting to this technology.
Yes.
So that's something that anybody can learn in a very short period of time. I shouldn't say very short, but 20 hours of anything, you're going to be like the top 1% of people that know it, especially in this industry that's like 5 months old. I know it's much older than that, but like the most of the meat and potatoes has come out in the past 5 months.
Yep.
ChatGPT is like $20 a month for like the premium. You can learn how to build business processes through that, learn how to help people automate. And that's probably an industry that's going to be arguably the biggest of our lifetime, even I think bigger than the internet. So that's an easy place, I think, for people to start. If you're looking for like, I don't know what to do, if you have a passion for it, that's a good place to start, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I was watching something the other day. This guy was saying how employees at any company in the future are going to have like an AI component with their job. Like you're going to be sitting there at your desk and you're going to have an AI bot open, a window open on your computer to help accelerate the volume of what you're putting out and what you're doing. So I love that you touched on that. I think it's critical, and I think that if somebody watching this is going, well, I don't know a lot about AI, or I don't know how it could help a company, I guarantee you, like if you just YouTube for the next 10, 15 minutes, you'll find an endless rabbit hole of ideas you can go down. I don't know, Matt, if you have any ideas off the top of your head, we could just softball over to the viewers, maybe you want to share, but there's so many opportunities, it's just unbelievable. Your imagination is the only real limitation.
Definitely. I think the skill of being able to prompt the AI is going to be one of those valuable skills of this next generation.
Yes.
Because it's not going to be memorizing the Declaration of Independence or memorizing or being able to use your times tables. Like all that stuff's so outdated.
Yep.
Most kids today are not going to grow up in a world where they don't have like an AI co-pilot at all times.
Right.
So learning how to like manipulate that and prompt the AI is going to be such a valuable skill because it's going to give you, let's just say you're being an entrepreneur, that's great. But even if you work a regular job, you might be able to put out 5 times the output that your coworker can, which is obviously going to have you getting promoted and building that skill set and potentially starting your own thing one day. But there's so many things you could do with AI. You could literally go into an old school business and look at their processes and see what you could automate, everything from customer service, the sales. There's a never ending rabbit hole, like you said, you could go down and just jump on YouTube for 15 minutes and your brain will implode for all the information. And I think it's going to be one of the biggest industries. And I want to say it's the modern day gold rush, but it's going to be the largest industry of our generation. I believe that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that's a great point. And I think what's maybe a parallel, and maybe hopefully it's not a stretch, but when you talk about the skill of prompting, what you're really doing more or less is learning how to ask better questions. And I think, and maybe just because we're coming up on time and to wrap this up, what a great skill to have as an entrepreneur, somebody who's thinking about getting into an entrepreneurial endeavor, is the skill of being able to ask better questions, right? So if folks out there can maybe through learning ChatGPT, you develop that skill, being able to ask yourself better questions, better quality questions, you're going to get better quality answers. And so I think that's definitely something that folks, hopefully take away and can use for themselves. So Matt, we're coming up on time. Maybe do you have one final piece of advice you want to impart on the viewers if they're looking to take on an entrepreneurial endeavor?
I mean, I think, as cliche as it sounds, you only live once. You don't want to look back in your life and have any regrets. So if you have a dream and a vision, or you're dreaming of doing this, go for it. Especially if you're very young, you know, a lot of responsibilities. Go for it then. You're not going to be behind the 8 ball, right? You could catch up. So just go for it, especially when you have limited responsibilities. Maybe you live with your parents or a bunch of roommates. Live below your means and just take a shot. You won't regret it.
Love it. Awesome. Well, Matt, thank you so much for coming on the show today. How can people find you if they want to maybe get in touch or learn more about what you got going on?
Yeah, you can check us out at roycebrookmedia.com. That's the site, and all the information you need is right on there.
Perfect. Well, thank you for coming on the show today. And for those of you watching at home, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Real Results. We'll see you on the next show.